Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first ever live web streaming release event. We're super excited to have you with us tonight and this afternoon, depending on where you are around the world. We're not excited just because it's our first live streaming event. We're also excited because we are sharing some great news with you today as we are introducing our next version of Capture, version 23. So we will be talking about the new version of Capture, and at the end of the session tonight, we are going to try to answer some of your questions. So if you think of questions throughout the webcast, write them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them by the end of the cast. So we at Capture, we believe in delivering a lighting design software to you that saves you time, that allows you to do things you couldn't do without Capture, and to help you find new ways of working, finding new creative workflows in your day-to-day jobs. This means that we need to look into not just how you work in Capture, but also in what situations you find Capture as parts of other workflows. So how do you get your models, your patch into Capture, and how do you deliver the end results? And this has been the main focus of our next version of Capture, version 23, which we have dubbed Capture Nexum. Right, it's the first time, so bear with me. So Nexum is Latin and means the place where many things connect. It's another form of the word nexus. I'm sorry, I'm having some connectivity issues. Right, sorry. So Nexum is Latin for the place where many things connect. And this ties neatly into the theme of this release, where we have looked into ways of getting data into Capture and how to fit Capture Nexum into your creative workflow. So the first thing we are going to talk about in Capture Nexum is model import. So for you, those of you who are working maybe with set designers or who are receiving drawings of a set or venue and need to light that in Capture, model import is very important. And we already support formats such as OBJ, SketchUp, and DWG. So with Capture Nexum, we have focused on improving the existing import formats as well as adding a new one. So let's start with talking about DWG. What we've done in Capture Nexum is we've added support for materials in DWG files. That means as you import a model from a DWG format, you also get the materials in the file. Of course, as they are associated with the objects as well. And this includes textures, obviously. We have also improved how Capture deals with edge visibility. That means that you will get less clutter in the imported objects. You will see less of the construction geometry lines that you have seen before. And we've also improved Capture's understanding of the DWG entities. So for instance, Capture understands a solid entity and ensures that every solid entity comes in as a separate object as you import it. So this improves the DWG workflow quite a lot. And we've done other smaller improvements here as well, such as the material import I mentioned. We've also made sure that materials, as you import an object, previously you could end up in situations where you had multiple materials on a single object, which created problems. So with Capture Nexum, when you import an object, several objects with materials, you will always get separate objects for every material, so it's easier to work with these objects after import. But let's move on. Let's talk about the new import format. So in Capture Nexum, we've added support for Cinema 4D import. That means the C4D file format. So just as with SketchUp import, you can import a C4D file straight away. There is one small detail worth paying attention to. That is, as you save the file in Cinema, you need to use the For Melange option. This ensures the file contains everything Capture needs. We have also added support for a plugin for Cinema 4D, which is called Stage, which is made by a company called Handmade in Germany. And Stage adds the ability for cinema to deal with entertainment or lighting fixtures. So as you import the Cinema 4D file that has lighting fixtures from Stage inside, Capture actually replaces these with Capture library fixtures. So that means you have a 5-click workflow directly from Cinema 4D with fixtures straight into Capture, and you can start visualizing. So we have talked about importing scenery and stage design. Something else that you might want to import is patch or fixture information. So we have had the data import function in Capture for a while, and it's allowed you to supplement data to existing fixtures in the project file. What we've done in Capture Nexum is we've made it possible to actually add fixtures during data import. That means that if you have a patch scheme in a text file, you can import this into your empty project file and the fixtures will be added for you. Of course, this means you need to identify the fixture types mentioned in the text file, but this is a relatively simple process because usually we're not talking about that many kinds of fixtures. So what we've done to make this as powerful as possible is that we have pre-tuned it to some of the popular softwares out there, such as MA2, Vectorworks, Camsys Magic Viz, trying to make sure that the import function requires you to do as little interaction as possible. So let's talk a little bit more about Vectorworks. We have had a lot of users asking for a workflow coming from Vectorworks into Capture. And with the enhancements of the data import and the model import in Capture Nexum, there's now a direct flow from Vectorworks into Capture. What you do is you import the model first using the DWG format, and then you export an instrument data file from Vectorworks. Then as you import these two files into Capture, you get both the model, the set, the theater, as well as all the fixtures, their patch, and even the focus information of the conventional fixtures. And then you're ready to start visualizing. So this obviously is big news for the Vectorworks users out there. And I'm sure there are more workflows than we have even thought of, but this is part of our excitement here. We're trying to find new ways for you to work with Capture together with other softwares. So if there is a software out there that you think Capture should understand the data export better of, make sure to let us know so we can take a look at that. There's not only data import, there's also data export. So what we've added to Capture Nexum is support for the patch XML format that is new for high-end's HOG4 system. That's just been released, I believe. It's version 3.6. So Capture Nexum can now export HOG4 patch XML files. That means that you can take your Capture design into a new show in your HOG4 and bring the patch in there and save a lot of time in the tedious patching part. So we've talked about model import, data export. So we have the scenery, we have the lighting fixtures. Let's talk a little bit about visualization. We have focused a lot in Capture Nexum on improving the color accuracy and the general credibility of the visualization. And with color accuracy, what we've focused on is having the correct colors on screen in terms of, essentially, we'd like your screen to be a window to reality. So we want the hues, the shades, the tints to be the right ones for the fixtures and the filters in question. What we've done is we've looked to the motion picture industry, where the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences recently spawned a tech project called ACES. ACES is short for Academy Color Encoding System, and it's a system designed to overcome challenges with color correctness in the motion picture industry. So keep in mind they are mixing video recording, digital cameras with visual effects rendering systems, post-production softwares, You have different kinds of digital video projectors. So if these systems don't speak the same language, well, your colors will be unpredictable by the end of the day. So we've taken some bits and bolts from this and fitted them into Capture. And live stuff is great. So what we're going to do, in order to talk a bit more about this, we need a short section of theory, I'm afraid. So what we're looking at now is the sRGB color space with the primary red, green, and blue colors that we would traditionally find in the old CRT screens, and in fact in PCs in general up to quite recently. And quite recently, we are seeing manufacturers launching products with white color support. We have the new range from Apple, we have the Razer laptops, we have the Microsoft Surface Studio, for instance, has more colors. And with more colors, what I'm actually talking about is more saturated colors. So to put things into perspective, we have plotted a few gels from the entertainment industry. We have some less saturated in the middle, like the light bastard amber or the pale lavender. But then as you move outwards the spectrum, there are a few colors like the jazz green or the golden amber that actually can't be shown properly on a computer screen at all today. ACES helps us here by introducing a color space that actually fits all colors visible to the human eye, so that we can do the proper calculations in Capture for the renders on screen. And the difference is stunning. Here we have an image, and it's a Capture Atlas render in the background. And excuse me, overlaid on top of this is the Capture Nexum render using the new ACES rendering pipeline. And you can see how the colors really come through in the render. And it's not just a matter of whether a single color comes through correctly, but imagine that you have a very saturated blue and a very saturated orange, and you start mixing them. If you can't reason about the colors properly to begin with, and as you mix them, you're definitely going to get the wrong results. But we've done other enhancements to the visualization as well. And the first one we'll talk about is fill lighting. This is an effect we have implemented that simulates the effect of indirect lighting in the scene. So this is essentially the light bouncing off the stage and hitting the scenery around it. And again, in the background, there's an Atlas render, which essentially is black because there is no fill lighting. And overlaid on top of this is a Nexum render where you can see some of the scenery behind it, which tints in green to the left and blue to the right. We've also added something called ambient occlusion. This is something that simulates the self-shading that occurs in corners or between objects that are close to each other. And finally, anti-aliasing. This doesn't only reduce pixel jaggies, but also reduces specular highlights that can commonly be seen in truss bracing or generally in small shiny objects that catches the light. So I've shown you a number of improvements to the visualization in Capture Nexum. There are other things such as improved performance. We have retina support. Of course, we make use of the wide color screen on the new Apple Macs. So there are more things about the visualization, and we will be posting more details on our website, as well as on our Facebook page as we proceed. Let's talk about video. We're seeing a lot of video in our productions today, and video is one of the areas where we have received most user requests over the past 3 or 4 years. We have had a lot of requests to support video exchange systems such as Spout or Siphon. So we started looking into what options were available to us, And we came down essentially to two choices. The first one was adding video capture support. That means connecting a video capture card to your computer and getting a live physical video stream into the visualization. So this is something we've added in Capture Nexum. We've tested it on Mac and Windows, of course. On Mac, there's a requirement for AV Foundation support. And on Windows, there's a requirement for the Windows Media Foundation support. And those both are the main technologies promoted by Apple and Microsoft, where unfortunately in the Windows world, there is a bit of a lag. So there is one brand that we are actually going to be promoting a little bit, and that's DataPath, because they've done a really good job as making sure to support Windows Media Foundation, which has been around since Windows Vista, so go figure. And they've just launched a new Vision LC range of capture cards. They're very cost efficient, and those are the ones we've been using primarily to test the video capture with. But a lot of users have also requested other ways of getting live streaming video in, such as Spout and Siphon that I mentioned. As we scouted the market out there to see what was available to us, we found something else that quite caught our eye, and this is NDI. NDI is a new technology from NewTek, which was released, I would like to say recently, but I think it is 2 years ago. And this is an Ethernet-based video streaming, I could say protocol, but it's a solution really, because it's not open, but NewTek are very supportive for manufacturers to get hold of what they need in order to implement this. So NDI, as I said, is an Ethernet-based video streaming solution. So it's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, but also for embedded systems. And this means, for instance, there's a product range from BirdDog coming out quite soon, and they make a small box that take HDMI and SDI inputs and transform this to Ethernet NDI video out. There's also a large range of other tech tools available that support NDI, such as Siphon and Spout bridges. So if you like Siphon and Spout, there's a bridge already that takes this to NDI and essentially brings your Siphon and Spout tech to an Ethernet level. There's also a free-frame GL plugin for NDI. So for all the Resolume Arena users, this is also great news. And there are more apps and softwares and hardwares coming. And we're going to be posting some links, and we encourage you to follow that because we think NDI is going to be very interesting to follow in the future in the world of video. So as a complement to video input, we've also added something that we call DMX generated textures. This is a way of getting it's kind of a fake video creation tool that is DMX controlled. So imagine you have self-illuminated objects, like in the scenario where people might ask us, so how can I DMX control an RGB object, or how can I fake some LED tape? Previously, you had to use actual LEDs from the fixture library to accomplish this. But what you can do now is you create a DMX texture in a material, you patch the material to DMX, and then you can do things like the ones that we show in this picture, which I am now wondering why it's not playing. Anyway, so what you're seeing in this image here is a DMX patch texture. It's a 5x5 matrix of RGB. And this is a great tool where you don't want to patch fixtures, but you need to get sort of video style content on regular objects. This is something very powerful that we will be showing you several ways of making good use of in the future. So let's talk a little bit about the practicalities. Capture Nexum will be released the 24th of April. This is 2 weeks after ProLight and Sound. And ProLight and Sound is next week. So I don't know based on where you're coming from, but if you would like to come to our stand at ProLight and Sound, that would be great. We will be previewing Capture Nexum to anyone who comes. And as I said, 2 weeks after ProLight is where we'll have the general release. So it's a new version, it's version 23. That means it's an upgrade. We are keeping our current product structure. That means the solo, duet, quartet, and symphony editions. The upgrade prices range from 99 up to 149 euros. And we are keeping the direct upgrade path from the Polar and Argo Basic Edition up to the Symphony Edition at the 699 euros for those who opted out on the Atlas release. Of course, if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask us. And this is the point where I'm going to look at my assistants to see if there are any questions to bring up in this cast now. And I think there may be. So we've been asked if there is a way to make a custom library. At this point, this is not possible. It's not one of the features we added to Nexum. We do have a plan for how to add this, and it's been scheduled, but I can't make any promises at this point. But this is for the future. So at the moment, no. Next question is, where can we see the fixture library of Capture? So the best way to see the fixture library of Capture is to download the demo of Capture and install it and open the fixture tab in the project window. Here you can search the fixture library and even go into some of the fixtures to see which optics and DMX modes we have in the fixtures. I'm having another question coming up. Yes, have we done anything with the plotting and paperwork? And yes, we have. Not as major things as the other ones I've mentioned here. But off the top of my head, we have, well, for one thing, the performance of the pay-per-view is ballistic compared to what we had before. The performance improvements in the rendering has really helped any work you do in the paperwork because it's not a slideshow anymore. But we've also added, so I'm digging into my memory here, we have the fixture count in the legend, the symbol legend in the plot, for instance. Then I'm afraid my memory is failing me, so I'll have to get back to you on that one. We will be posting, right after this stream, online a more detailed list of all the features as well. So it will be possible to see what I didn't mention here. Next question is how to work with daylight when you have an outdoor stage. So I mentioned the new fill lighting feature that we added. That is, of course, based on the lighting reflections of stage lights on stage. And this sort of replaces the old ambient lighting that we had before. But we have improved the ambient lighting as well, in the sense that you can actually pick a color of the ambient lighting now. And you can use that very much to create the daylight effect, so that you have a slightly tinted, maybe blue, or even a warmer color, depending on the time of day. So the answer how to do daylight is the ambient lighting setting, yes. Then we have another question regarding our license structure and how we like that and why we're stuck with it. We are pretty happy with how the license structure changes worked out. Of course, we have access to all the questions from all the users around the world. So maybe we have a fairer statistics, let's say, of how the license model is playing out. But we have seen it solve more problems than it has created, actually. So for the time being, we're happy with it, is my answer there. Then we have a question. What is the best type of video card to use? And that is a very difficult question to answer. So it all comes down to the size of your show file, as well as the level of quality you want your visualization to be. you can always get away with a simpler graphics card if you turn down all the rendering settings. But if you turn all the rendering settings to max, there's no graphics card that's going to be good enough for you, essentially. So I can't really answer it, but we do tend to recommend more powerful graphics cards. There is a link on our website. I think we can repost it later here with our minimum requirements. And there's also a site called videobenchmark.net, which is great at giving an indication of how good value for money you're getting for a specific video card. So moving on. Is there hope to see LED moving head macro effects in the future? Yes, there is always hope, as they say. There are a few issues at play here. For one, we kind of need to have the actual effect programming from the manufacturers to reverse engineer the effects out of the fixtures by observing them or videotaping them simply doesn't work. So we need to have the effects programming from the manufacturers. And as we have communicated with manufacturers, it turns out that often it's not available in a format that they could even send to us. But we are having these discussions, so I would say this is an indication of how much hope there is. So if you help us explain to the fixture manufacturers that this is important, maybe they can prioritize it and we can have it sooner than later. Next question is, can you save your own user-generated models into Capture? And yes and no. Well, the solution we have for this is to use the model import feature. So the method actually is to, if you want to reuse something from another project file, you need to import it from that project file. Next question is, what about layer scaffolding? Yes, no happy news there at the moment, I'm afraid. Next question, please. LED bar rendering. Yes, that's a good question. We have improved LED bar rendering in Capture Nexum. In fact, we have improved the rendering of any lighting fixture that has small, tiny apertures, especially if they are, as on the LED bar, along a long strip. So yes, LED bar rendering has been actively improved in Capture Nexum, yes. This is actually the same thing goes for the next question, which is power beam rendering. So we have added support for oval asymmetric PowerCan optics in Capture Nexum. This also means a rather major overhaul of the library, as we need to add the oval optics to all the fixtures in the library. They are definitely going to be available for the generic fixtures on release, but for the other fixtures, you may need to nudge us depending on which brands you're using. So the oval optics are in there, and there is a slider so that you can rotate the filament as well. Yes. Next question is, do you handle UV mapping for video polygons? And I'm not actually sure I quite understand it, but if you import models into Capture, then we do retain the UV mapping of the materials. So even if you apply another material, as long as you don't start manually mapping them, we do preserve the original UV mapping imported. Yes, I hope that answered the question. Next question is, are there any improvements to the capture component in Avolite's consoles? And this is a question I'm going to pass directly on to Avolite, actually. The Avolite's component is based on the capture component, and that is always available in the latest capture version. So there will be a Capture Nexum component, but how that fits into the Avolite's release schedule is up to them, really. Next question is about MA import and export. So to the best of our understanding, the best we could do at this moment is import patch from MA CSV files. MA do have an XML format internally, but it's not open or official, so we dare not use it at this point. It's something we hope to discuss with them as soon as possible, really, so that we can have MA import and export, yes. Next question is, will you be able to directly control the temperature of ambient lighting? A great question. Yes and no. Since you are able to change the color of the ambient lighting, you can simulate the effect, but you would have to look out the correct RGB values for a given color temperature. But it's a good idea for improvements to actually have a color temperature picker rather than a color picker, so that's something we'll bring with us to the engineering department. The next question is, do project snapshots follow changes to a fixture that's been patched? To be perfectly honest, I don't quite know. That's something we would have to research. So that is a question better fit for the Capture support department. And next question, is it possible to import Vectorworks model including scenery, lighting, and lighting data? And to this question, I will answer yes. Now we do have a workflow. You need to have a Vectorworks license because you need to export to DWG and you need to export the instrument list from Vectorworks. So you need to have Vectorworks, but if you do, then yes, you can import this straight into Capture Nexum. Yes. Next question is, will we see support for other 3D design platforms, for instance, Blender or Maya? Yes, I would say we will. Although our primary concern is making sure there is a workflow, whether it will be a direct import as with SketchUp or C4D is uncertain, but we will definitely continue looking into this, yes. And finally, maybe, is there a grace period if we just bought the Atlas version? At the moment, the grace period is set to last Friday. Well, it is set to last Friday, not just at the moment. So if you purchased Capture Atlas or an upgrade to Atlas before last Friday, then you will need to purchase an upgrade. But since we are not releasing Nexum until 2 weeks after ProLight, in the period from now and up till then, you will receive a complimentary Nexum license, yes. And furthermore, the question is, can we create a start template? And the answer to that at the moment is no. So that's an easy one. And can you add a feature to select your favorite fixtures or recently added fixtures? This is something we have on our wish list, but it's not something that has been added to Capture Nexum, no. Do we have more questions coming up? It seems we do. Does or will Capture support SLI/Crossfire multi-GPU setup? So, yes and no, I would say. It is something we are looking into, but at the moment we have more severe bottlenecks to look at than jumping on the SLI Crossfire road. So it's a little bit further down the road at the moment. But I would add that graphics cards are getting very powerful, and we are actually kind of struggling in even feeding the graphics card with stuff to do. So SLI and Crossfire is kind of next possible technology for us. We have more immediate things to sort out at the moment. Furthermore, will Capture plan on making any moves to integrate Grand MA consoles back into their visualizers? So this is actually not a Capture move, it's an MA move. It is MA who have actively blocked us from receiving DMX. And the only way this will ever work again is if MA change their mind. We have had repeating meetings with them. We respect their decision and they have good reasons for what they are doing. And I think at the moment it is what it is. And if a change is desired, it is better to speak with MA about it, and since they are the ones who can explain the reasons as well, that is better. Next question, will there be a student edition like previous releases? Yes, there will. It will be released simultaneously as the regular version. And will this upgrade into the Avolites product? Not quite sure exactly here, but Capture Nexum does have the ability to export, save as a Capture Argo as well as a Capture Atlas file. So Avolite users will definitely be able to work with Capture Nexum. They can work in Nexum and save as an Argo file, which is the current version Avolites are using, so that is possible. Next, I'm asked to compare between light converse and capture. That is something I'm simply not prepared to do at the moment, since I'm not up to date with what light converse's latest features are, so I'll just move on at the moment. We're asked about different truss bracings in trusses. This is something that is very much on our agenda for the future, but it is not a feature that is part of Capture Nexum. No. And finally, we are being asked 2 more questions. The first one is whether it's possible to make your own fixture or at least edit a generic one. This is a, you could say, I guess, a constant source for debate internally. We would like to make it possible to make minor tweaks. Yes, it's not possible at this point, but it will not be possible to build a fixture from scratch. So in essence, yes, but not quite yet. We are also being asked about secondary reflections, as in reflective surfaces. This is not something that is part of Capture Nexum, but it is very much on the list for the future, yes. And another template-related questions pertaining to plots. Is it possible to make a plot template? The answer to that is no. You would have to duplicate an existing plot. This is something for the future. And what is the price of Capture Argo Solo upgrade to Quartet? So the price would be the upgrade price from Solo in Argo to Solo in Nexum, which is 99 euros. And then it's the upgrade price in Nexum from Solo to Quartet, which frankly I don't have off the top of my head. But it's first upgrade to Nexum and then upgrade to Quartet. We have a question related to library group folders. Is not something we have added for Nexum. It is something we're aware of as part of a general library browsing overhaul. I mean, the library has grown huge lately, and yes, it's long to scroll. So something to look at, indeed. Any plans on adding mirroring functions to the drafting environment? Yes, is all I can say there at the moment. Moving on, if I purchase and import models from the student version into the non-student version, can I? Yes, you can. I believe there is a minor restriction related to DWG, though, for licensing reasons. But if it's SketchUp or Cinema, then yes, you can do that, yes. And in paperwork, can you spin the header to place on portrait if you print in landscape? No, this is not possible, I'm afraid. And I'm not even sure we've been asked that before, to be honest. So we'll try and remember that one for the list. Is there a date when we can expect the release of Nexum? Yes, it's the 24th of April. It's like Christmas Eve, but in April, yes, easy to understand. Is there a date when, sorry, that was the same question. Will there ever be a 2D floor plan PDF import function? Well, there are numerous solutions to make this workflow happen already. It involves usually converting a PDF to DWG, which you can then import. The thing is, normally these PDFs come from softwares that could have exported a DWG to begin with. So it's kind of tough for us to prioritize this. I'm not ruling it out, but it's not a top priority at the moment, to be honest, no. There is more coming up. I shall sip some water. Have you changed the way we used to map video files to the video wall? No, we have not. It is all the same. When you have trussing with lights and obviously weight information, is it possible to get point weight information out of the rigging in any way? No, we have not looked into any rigging workflows at this point, so that is simply not possible, no. Is it possible to upgrade from Capture Argo? Yes, it is the same upgrade price regardless of whether you have Polar, Argo or Atlas, and that is one of our key points with our license model, is that it's not subscription based in any way. You can skip a version. If there's nothing in there that you think is worth it, just skip it. So yes, you can upgrade and it is the same price. We have a question on PDF imports, to which the answer is simply no, although there are PDF to DWG converters available, so I would recommend you to look into those. Will you do more streams like this in the future? That is an open question. Based on how many likes we get here, we might do that, yes. I think we're hoping to do that. Obviously, there's a lot of questions to be answered, so it's quite likely. And can I use a license on multiple machines? Yes, you can. So your license is personal, and it's good for 2 activations. But we do realize that over time, you replace your computers, they might crash, they might get stolen. So you can definitely use it on 2 computers, yes, but don't be afraid that if you buy a 3rd computer, you need to buy more licenses. You don't. So we take care of that for you. Will you, so this is a mirroring question again, actually. Will you add a way of mirroring object against an axis? It is something that's been discussed. I mean, the challenge is the fact that some objects are physically impossible to mirror. It is not possible to mirror a lighting fixture. So all you can mirror is objects' positions. There are some situations where something like it can be achieved. So obviously we might look into showing you some of these, maybe in a future webcast. Is the navigation system different? No, the navigation system in Nexum is the same as in Atlas. It's received some improvements. For instance, the rotation anchor snaps in Nexum, so it's super easy to rotate around the exact center or a corner of the object you have selected. But in general, it is the same, yes. Next question is whether the ProLight library has been expanded with MPT towers. To be honest, I have no idea. That is more of a library question, so we would have to get back to you on that one in that case. Next question is, would it give a possibility to make complicated object in Capture, something like in SketchUp, but direct in Capture? So in terms of adding more CAD-like drawing or modeling features in Capture, we would definitely like to add some basic such functionality in the future, but we are not looking at competing with SketchUp at any point. So the answer is kind of in the future. Next question, is there a way to export equipment list depending on groups to have weight and power numbers for exact truss? No, there is not something quite ready for that. As I said, we have not really looked into any rigging workflows in this release. And would it be possible to make... No, that's a repeat question, sorry. More questions coming up. Maybe not. Water break. So I think we'll wrap it up here actually. Thank you very much for watching. It's been great to have you with us. Of course, this cast will be available for watching again and again later on. We will be posting more information on our Facebook and websites, also with more information on the other features of Capture Nexum. So have a good look at our Facebook and websites, and thank you for this time. How do we even cut here?